Hello, Forceful players. My name is Sam from WOTCG. I'm here to introduce my new series about cards on the ban list. I want to first talk a little bit about my vision, which is to reflect on the certain cards that are banned, why they were banned, when they were banned, and what truly made them feared by the community. I also want to refrain from personal rants about my feelings, although I may include them here and there, but I mainly want to reflect on what the community felt and how the players felt, and sort of introduce why they refrained from playing in many of these cases. So to start it off, I'm sorry for the bad puns, and hopefully by the title you can tell why I'm saying certain words certain ways. I'm going to start with reflect, refrain. So here you go. Reflect, refrain. Yes, don't start saying stuff in the comments about how, I'm so dumb. Yes, I know reflect isn't banned. But for those of you that haven't been around since then, or those of you that have, reflect was the first card ever banned in Forcible. And it was banned for good reason. I'm going to go through the reason why it was banned and what made it come back. So let's first introduce why reflect was both good and bad. So starting off, reflect is a good way to show what makes a card be banned and what makes it come back. And one of the best things about R was, yes, if you see there, it's a wind attribute, but nothing about it says wind, which is what made it really strong and kind of fair to some degree. Since any deck could play reflect, and as you'll see through the abilities, there's nothing really particular. There's a lot of different abilities and different decks that could have used these abilities, such as Beast, Sacred Beast, Necrolance, Fairies, Alice's World, and Stealth. So mainly when Stealth came out, it was the biggest forerunner, but before then it was 5 decks, and there was a lot of variety in the decks. So to me, that was a good thing about R, but of course, when you're trying to be competitive and you don't have an option of choosing any ruler but reflect and refrain, it kind of gets boring after a while. So let's first go through the abilities. So Judgment 0, immediately a good card. Like, it doesn't matter too much. Like, it basically has to have the worst J ruler in the world for this to be bad. Just free judgment. Let me remind you of some other free judgments. You have Fox, which is a high competitive meta for a very long time. You had K4, which did have a stipulation that you need to have played a treasure item, but treasure items are 1 cost, 2 cost, 3 costs, 4 costs, about probably one of the highest ones, but mainly 1 cost. So really easy to do that, right? So there's a lot of different rulers. Sorry, not a lot, but there are some rulers that have free judgment, and all of them are good. So moving down, you see once per turn, you can choose one of these, and you can only play it during your turn. But it's a free cost. So what does it do? Well, it gives a Resonator +2/+2 until end of turn. You put a magic counter on this card. Or you draw a card, put a card from your hand onto the bottom of your deck. You get to put a magic counter on this card. Or recover target Resonator at the end of turn. Put a magic counter on this card. So to sum it up, it has 3 different abilities, each one giving a magic counter. Now we're going to get to what the magic counters do, which was a big part of Reflect. But just this front side, let's just take that at face value. So getting to filter a card, such as drawing a card and putting a card on the bottom. Let's say you draw your first 5, you get some things you don't really want, you put them to the bottom, normal mulligan, right? But then you move along and you're like, hey, I just drew off from my mulligan, and I got a 7-drop. I have no way of cheating this thing in. It's a horrible draw, but it happens in card games, right? Not for Reflect. Reflect goes, no. I'm going to pay 0, draw a card, put that 7-drop on the bottom because I know I don't need it, and boom, you just filtered a card. The bottom thing, recovering a Resonator at the end of turn. I mean, have you ever just wanted to recover things? It's just a good ability overall. I mean, it helps with mana dorks, it helps with blockers, things you don't really want your opponents to attack into without target attack / precision, things of that nature. And the first ability, +2/+2 until end of turn. Now, compared to the other two, this may not sound as good. You may be thinking, well, it's good for trading, which it is, of course, but it has to do a lot with another card. So, Lancelot. So, Lancelot is a fairly famous card, and almost all red decks, at least in Wander, will run it to some degree. So, it's 2 red, swiftness, 6/6, and all we really care about is the fact that whenever you attack, a trigger happens. When the trigger resolves, if he has 1,000 or more attack, you deal 700 to a target resonator. So he's a 6/6. Reflect only gives +2/+2. But that's where Necrolance came in. See, Necrolance said, hey, I can play Lancelot while Necromancy of the Undead Lord is in my grave. It attaches itself, he's now an 8/8. I go to reflect, I say give him +2/+2, I swing, I'm dealing 7 to something, I'm killing whatever your first turn resonator was, and I'm hitting you for 1,000. And since that addition's on there, every single turn I can do this. So, as you can see, all of its abilities are great. So, we're going to move down, and we're going to go towards the J-Roller. So, Fruit of Judgment, right? So, first ability... sorry, I guess I should stop and say this was actually the first card that can't do battle. It's like Fox. It can be destroyed, unlike Fox, but this one cannot do battle. You basically flip it, and it's just there on the board. No fighting. So, anyway, pay 0. Yeah, pay 0, put this card into your ruler area as a ruler, which basically means you get to flip it back for free. Now, why would you do that? Well, you can tap, remove 2 magic counters from this card. Return target resonator to its owner's hand. Tap, remove X magic counters from this card. Cancel target normal spell. Your opponent controls the cost X or less. So, normal spell just means anything that's not a resonator. So, you got additions, you got regalia, you got chance, things of that nature. Tap, remove 4 magic counters from this card, search your main deck for a card and put it into your hand. Then shuffle your main deck. So, free search, or sort of free, you tap, remove 4. So you might be thinking, well, Sam, 2, X, 4, this sounds like big numbers. I get 1 per turn, and only during my turn. How in the world am I consistently going to flip this and get 4 counters? Well, regalia, obviously. This is Alice Cluster after all. And what is life without a free cost regalia that just helps your ruler? So, Orb, if you notice, is actually a banned card right now in Wander. And it rotated out over a year ago, New Frontiers. But anyway, you tap it, put a magic counter in your J-Ruler. So you see in the ramp here? Let's continue. You tap, remove a magic counter from your J-Ruler. If your J-Ruler has no attack and defense, recover it. So, I'm going to talk about other cards that abuse that, but for right now, let's just talk about Reflect. So, like I said, Reflect doesn't have an attack or defense. Can't do battle, so it doesn't have any of the stats. So with this, if you had enough, there were many times where you had 10 counters on her, or you could tap it, cancel their chant, maybe you moved like 3, 2, so you still got some left over. You tap the regalia, you remove 1, so you're down to maybe like 6 left. Your opponent goes, that's fine. You go tap, search my deck for any card, put it into my hand, 0 cost ability, put it back onto its ruler side, and next turn then you get the ruler side ability. So it's constant flipping. There's one more ability that was one of my favorites by far whenever I played the deck. It was green, tap, remove 2 magic counters, draw a card. There's no stipulation on what your J-Ruler or ruler has to do. It's just you have to pay the green, tap, and remove 2. So I could do an entire video talking about like which decks can abuse this card, but for now I'm sticking with Reflect, and I'll eventually talk about this, especially when it comes to Fox. So moving along now, we would have to say the best way to talk about this next part and the best way to approach it is to discuss what cards were introduced to counter her. So the most famous card, by far, which I know a lot of people are thinking about right now, was infamously Black Moonbeam. Although it is my favorite ruler's card by flavor, it was not his to abuse. You see, Black Moonbeam was pretty much their answer to RR at first. They said, hey, R is a problem. We couldn't print it in the next set, so we're printing BFA, the final set of Atlas Cluster. So it's 2 costs. Destroy target J ruler. Players cannot chase to this card. So it's a great way to say, hey, R's main ability is to flip itself back over and basically be using the ruler and J ruler side every other turn. That was the main idea. So if you introduced a card where they couldn't chase to it to put itself back and destroyed it for fairly cheap, it's a pretty good card. And it was. Black Moonbeam is probably one of the best cards ever printed, especially whenever you want to kill a J ruler. I mean, it does the job and they can't chase to it. What's a better way to doing it? So if you take a look, you see there's no stipulation about who plays this card. I can search for any card for 4 counters. So if I'm RR and I'm playing against any J ruler, I just search this thing out and I'm winning this trade. You see, if I go beginning of your turn, tap my J ruler, search my deck for Black Moonbeam, use a 0 cost to put itself back, I now just have a 2 cost thing you cannot answer to, so you can't cancel. So you basically have to pull it out of my hand through discard, or you have to play something like Windsclued Refuge to protect yourself. But it was basically this huge advantage that R was just getting over people. So it didn't do the job well. Well, in the middle, between BFA and CFC, they decided to ban RR. Sad day for RR players, but a good day for literally everyone else, including some RR players. So the card that I feel was the main thing, which I wish had been printed in BFA, which could have really fought RR and shown people how, there is a way to counter it, was Shackles of Ice. So Shackles of Ice was a card that, I mean, if you read it, it says, as long as this card is not bestowed, which means you just play it, leave it there, players cannot use Ruler's activate abilities. So when you look at RR, they can only do Judgment, that's it. Their entire front side means nothing, and if they don't have counters, their entire back side means almost nothing. So you look at this and you're like, it says both players. That means R couldn't abuse this card because it kills their own J ruler abilities and it kills their opponents. So R technically could play this card, but it's not a good card. So you're seeing how this was actually something that could have helped Water, which was by far one of the worst colors at the time, especially, which was known to be just atrocious, would have had a way to combat RR. It had Down the Drain at the time, which combated aggro. Blue could have been really good even without having to splash in black. And it was just sad to, see Shackles not be printed quick enough. And it's an example of when you should have an answer to a card, either in the same set it comes out or in the very next set. That you shouldn't wait until the beginning of the next cluster to answer a card when so many people were just turned away from the entire ruler. So moving along, I want to cover one last card, which wasn't printed to fight R, but I feel is a very good card right now if you truly don't like R and Wander. Last Days of the Prideless Dragonard. 1 green, quick cast. You can choose one. Cancel target Fire Chant spell, which if you want to do that, you can. It's good against aggro. Or you can remove all the counters from your opponent's J ruler. So what does R do if it has no counters? Well, it has to try and build them back up. So that's one of those cards where it happened to hurt her, and there's probably others that I just didn't think of, I'll be honest, I didn't look around too much. I was just trying to make this video short and simple and to show you guys, of course, how great of a card this is. And I guess the best thing to do now is to talk about, why did this card come back? Because people hated it so much and were so fearful of it and just didn't want to play around with it because so many people left the game when it came around. What made it come back? It was a trade-off. Orb and R shouldn't exist together. Like, I want them to exist together, but that's just a personal thing because I want a heyday type of format. But that's just personal. Like, they are just really strong together. I mean, there was times when I could use Orb. I could be flipping Reflect every single turn, searching for a card almost every turn, or canceling something, bouncing something. I could do 1 to 2 of the abilities every single turn, and I always had counters. And that's strong. But keeping them apart is good. It means R got to come back. It got a little bit of play in the meta. Never truly made it very far because the power level difference. So going to Lapis, you'll notice a lot of different rulers. Fox, very strong, high ramper. If there's no bank cards, it's probably one of the best decks ever. I mean, it can turn 2 out a 12/12 flyer that gets you 2 stones. Like, what's a better thing than that, right? You got Priscia 2.0. Kills you turn 2, take away Lave, kills you turn 3. Consistent, killer, aggro / mid-range, perfect for red-green. Moving into Rhea, you have Sherry. Sherry's just good all around, banned from side decks everywhere, now banned in every format you can think of. So, strong. As you progress through these, you'll notice different rulers just in general were just better. They kept on getting stronger. And you move to the most recent cluster, New Valhalla. So New Valhalla, everyone gets Divinity. You got great runes in your rune deck. You can't discard them. You just play them whenever you want. It's great. And the power level is insane right now. I mean, as of making this video, as far as I know, the Wander meta is just Divinity rulers. And it's sad for me because I wanted Wander to not be what New Frontier is. But we can't always have our dreams. But when you compare them to something like R without Orb, it can't compete. R filters cards, pumps things, and recovers things, but only one of those per turn. When a ruler with Divinity has just great, amazing cards that you normally would love to have in your hand, just has access to them at any point in time, which makes it a very high curve of just abilities and just strength that they behold in the power level. So it's sad to see Divinity, but I'm happy that because power level's gone up, R got to return. I can play her legally, and I can just have fun with it. So overall, I hope that you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope that it was interesting. And please let me know how you guys feel about R back when it came back. Maybe some stories you had when she was around. Maybe some stories recently, about how much fun you've been having building a deck that uses a ruler that's just consistent. And I hope you guys enjoy and leave a like. And see you guys next time.